Say it with me now. Ronald Jones is a beast. Again, Ronald Jones is a beast. One more time. Say it with me. Ronald Jones is you get the point. Yes. Yes, 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 yes. Ronald Jones is a beast. Stud. Absolute stud. I was surprised when I started watching him because I didn't think I was going to come away as highly impressed as I ultimately was. As you can see by the fact that I have him rated higher than Darius Geis from LSU, a guy that's getting a lot more buzz and a lot more discussion about being better than Saquon Barkley out of this draft class. And don't get me wrong, I feel like with those top three names, it's really hard to go wrong with any of them. I feel like similarly with Fournette and McCaffrey and Cook and Kamara, who were my top four running backs, if I recall correctly, in terms of grading last year. It was Cook and Fournette, and then McCaffrey and Kamara were like one and the same. It feels like it's hard to go wrong with any of these three guys. But I don't feel like Ronald Jones gets enough love compared to the other two. And I don't understand why, because here's what I see when I watch Ronald Jones. I see an explosive athlete with great burst and home run speed. I think he's more explosive, for sure, than Darius, and I think you could make an argument that he's more explosive than Saquon Barkley. Now, in terms of size-speed combinations, because Barkley is, an extra 20 pounds or so on his body, maybe it gives Jones a bigger advantage there. But I do feel like he's an explosive athlete with more burst and home run speed than Saquon Barkley. More shiftiness, more elusiveness than both Geis and Barkley. And he also runs like a man possessed. I wish Saquon Barkley, frankly, ran like Ronald Jones does more consistently. This dude packs a wallop at about 200 to 205 pounds. I mean, he could be an absolute load, similar to an Alvin Kamara when he was at Tennessee. Still defies logic to me why he didn't get more opportunities there. But Kamara was a beast in the open field. He shook people. And even more impressively, if you remember in the scouting report of him last year, I pointed out the 2016 Vanderbilt game. I wanted to say, when you talk about his ability to break tackles, you watch that game and that's all you need to know. When you talk about Ronald Jones, he's got some of those similar type of highlights. He runs with ferocity, violence, like a man possessed, like a bowling ball of butcher knives, not to take away from Carl Joseph, who was more like, maybe you'd even say, a bowling ball of fucking machetes. But Ronald Jones, man, just an absolute angry runner to me at his size. And then he backs that up with great elusiveness, agility, cutting ability. He can shake people in the open field. You get him in some space and watch out. He can go by you. He can go around you. He can go right through you. And then packaging that up with some top-notch vision and patience, as I talked about in other videos about running backs. I love backs with vision and patience. And I feel like Jones has it at a very high level. Most certainly doesn't have to take a backseat to anybody in this draft class in those areas. So when I watch him, to me, his strengths are every bit as good, if not better, as anybody else in this draft class. That there's really good running back class at that position. I'm impressed. Obviously, I have some concerns. When you look at the grade, why don't I have him graded as the number one back in this class when I'm talking about Jones being a beast? Well, number one, the type of style of runner that he is, particularly his physicality at 205 pounds, is that really going to translate at the NFL level? And the truth is, I don't know. I think it can. I think it will. But I can't guarantee it. Some guys, when they get to that higher level, the things don't always translate. But I will believe for now that it will, but it will be a concern for some front offices. They're like, he runs really hard at 205, but he's doing it against college guys. Can he do the same thing at the NFL level? Well, Kamara did, and you saw how that worked out. Unfortunately for him, kind of being a smaller back, he's not as good of a receiver as you'd like him to be. He's kind of got a limited route tree. He was used some at USC as a receiver in 2017, but not as much as I thought he should have been. It would have helped Darnold out a significant amount, I felt like, if he would have went to the check down option more, they would design more things for Ronald Jones, because I feel like that ability is there. when you look at the athletic package, he should be a much better receiver, and he should be farther along as a pass catcher, as a route runner than he was at USC. I think some teams are also going to worry about him in pass protection situations. He's not a very big guy. He's not a very strong guy. Not the most eager to block all the time. But again, when you look at a guy like Jones, if that's how you're primarily going to use him, then you should be fired anyways. But some teams will worry about that because some teams do put a premium on their backs being able to pass protect. They do. And even with him only having missed, I think it was one game due to injuries over the course of 3 seasons, you have to wonder about the size and the style of run or that he is. Could that lead to some injuries and some nagging type of injuries that sap some of his effectiveness and burst at the NFL level? You know, it's tough because on the one hand, even though he's not the biggest back and he runs so angry, it didn't cause him to have many injuries. He didn't miss much time at all. I mean, he was a very reliable player for USC in terms of being able to answer the bell week in and week out. And usually you think that stuff projects to the next level. It doesn't always. Sometimes it does, and sometimes, honestly, it doesn't. And there will be some concerns about that. I still like this kid a lot, though. Again, say it with me. Ronald Jones is a beast. I love running backs with an edge. And to me, he has a ton of it. And that shouldn't surprise you being a Bears fan and looking up to somebody like Walter Payton when you talk about running with an edge. Nobody ever ran with more edge, more violence, more consistency than Walter Payton. The old farts talking about Jim Brown can fuck off. Jim Brown was bigger than the offensive and defensive linemen of his day. Give me a break. It's a lot easier to run through guys like that. Walter Payton was doing it against bigger and stronger players consistently for over a decade. But I always love running backs that run with that type of edge, that are willing to sit there and bring the violence to the defender and not wait for the hit. And Jones does that in great abundance. I feel like he should be able to develop as a pass catcher, as a route runner, because his athletic skill set, his size, necessitates him to do so. And I feel like the system that he was in at USC didn't utilize him enough in that role. So I expect to be able to see that out of him. It'll be an added bonus to him once he gets to the NFL. And what I really like about him, even more so than Barkley, even more so than Geis, is I truly feel like, especially once he improves as a pass catcher, he has more versatility than those other two guys in terms of he could truly fit in anybody's scheme. Power running, he can do that at 205 pounds, yes. Zone blocking, absolutely. You're running out of a more spread, wide open type of system? Absolutely. If you want to utilize him even more as a pass catcher, I think he'll get to that point, you could utilize him there too, more than those other two big names that you hear compared about talking about him being the 1 and 2 running backs in this class. I think Jones absolutely can do that. And I think he's being, I won't say criminally underrated in this whole process, but definitely underrated and not getting nearly the amount of attention or heralding as he deserves. Because why, everybody? Ronald Jones is a beast. Now, in terms of my NFL comparison for him, I put down Jamal Charles because I do see quite a bit of Jamal Charles in him. Jamal Charles was an explosive athlete who could run with anger and violence. But you also see some Kamara in him in terms of the same thing, being able to make people miss in the open field and being able to run over people. Either way, those are pretty good comparisons to have. I've got a grade of 90.5 on Ronald Jones. He's a first-round talent in my eyes. I don't know if he ends up going in the first round. If he doesn't, somebody's going to get a steal in round 2. A steal. Because he should be a first-round pick. He's the type of talent that merits a first-round pick. And potentially a lot of teams that could have used him, that pass on him in round 1, will live to regret it for years to come. Don't sleep on Ronald Jones because why? Ronald Jones is a beast.